Tell me this, brother. Have you always had people around you telling you what you should do or the way you should go about your life? You know, people just everywhere trying to tell you how to live your life, give you advice, things like that. And I wanted to give my take on that personally, okay? I think if you want someone to really listen to you, you have to first be able to give them reasons as to why they should, right? For example, I'm not sitting here trying to be something I'm not. I honestly portray what I am, who I am, you know? And I'm not going to give you advice on how to be rich because I myself am not rich. Now, some of you might consider where I am to be as like rich, but I don't think most would classify me as that. And so it'd be very disingenuous of me to make a video about how to become rich, right? Now, I do talk about knowing how to have certain mind frames and things like that, and it's just like those are my experiences, and if you've gone through something similar, then I'm going to tell you, okay, look, this is what I implemented and this is what helped me. It might not necessarily help you, so that doesn't necessarily make me a fraud in some case, but and that doesn't necessarily make you stupid for not knowing how to implement it. You might just a different thing might work for you, right? So it's just the way I think about things, right? Wow, there's a Zon playing right now. It sounds beautiful. But yeah, I digress. Back to what I was saying. I think if you want people to really listen to you, you have to give them more like suggestions, and they kind of have to care about your opinion too. Like, why are you worth listening to? And if they want the input, they'll listen to you, and you're also being very humble about it. Like, you're not like, oh, this is the way to live, this is the only way to live. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And this tends to particularly happen when people try to, you know, tell you how to live your life. Maybe it happens in, you know, religious figures tend to do this sometimes too. And I think it's a big mistake in convincing how to tell people how to do something or be something. It's like, why don't you stop talking about it and start trying to become it? Like, you know, parents talk about this too. If you're all wondering what the background noise is, it's just azan, all right? So it's like the azan for prayers, basically. It sounds great, so I don't even care if it enters through the microphone, but yeah, as I was saying, right, you have to learn to become an example. Like, for example, when kids grow up in the household, right, how do you expect them to become something great, or great parents, or someone with great values and characteristics, if you yourself are not representing them, you yourself are not the example? How do you expect that to happen? It doesn't make a lot of sense, right? And so I think about all the people who I have been inspired by, and the thing is, they are rather than talking about it. They are that thing rather than talking about it. So for example, as a kid, I love Optimus Prime from the movies, okay? Very, very humble guy. Now, I know there's going to be some of you smart asses that come in here and say, oh, Optimus wasn't that way in the lore or whatever. Dude, I don't care. I'm talking about how he was in the movies, okay? And that's the Optimus I liked. Very, very humble, very, very strong. He was dangerous. So that's why his, kindness wasn't taken as something of a weakness. You know, a very, very dangerous person. He was a leader as well. So that's why I liked him so much. And he didn't talk about being any of those things. He just kind of did them. And that's why you're so inspired by them. And that's why you want to look into trying to be those people. Whether it be a character, whether it be, an anime character, whether it be like a movie character, a fictional character, a real life role model. Doesn't matter who it is. They tend to actually act that way rather than talking about it. Now, of course, I'm talking about it right here. And if your inspiration is like another self-improvement YouTuber, of course they're going to talk about it. That's kind of their job. Or maybe they're at an event where they do talk about their beliefs. Yeah, okay, that's, or a podcast or something. Yeah, that's like a pass. But they're not going out of their way to do that thing, right? They're not going out of their way to say, hey, by the way, like, this is what makes me so good. It's like, no, they're invited to talk about those kinds of things, or they do it because that's just what they like to do. And even then, they're not like pressuring you, because when you try to pressure and take control, it ends up acting in the opposite direction. When you're trying so hard for someone to become one thing, it ends up being the opposite direction. So I think the best way you can set an example to, probably a lot of you wanting to set an example to your brother, maybe your sisters, maybe your family, maybe your loved ones, maybe your romantic partner, maybe your friends, it could be anybody, bro. Maybe even this brotherhood. Like, that's why I stop trying to cuss so much or use a crazy amount of cuss words. It's like, I want to set an example for people, right? And I can't do that if I'm constantly using language that doesn't particularly mean anything, right? I want to learn to articulate myself like Jordan Peterson did, And so it that quote always comes back to me. If you need like a mantra or something to keep what I'm saying in mind, keep this in mind. It's something Marcus Aurelius said, and he kind of like paraphrases it. It goes something along the lines of, instead of trying to talk about what a good man is, how about you become one, right? Very, very important. I think that was very, very wise as well. Again, if you start living by that example, people will naturally become more curious as to why you are the way you are. You're kind of like a mystery to solve as well at that point, because you're not always opening your mouth, having to talk about it. If you're always talking about it, people are annoyed. They're like, bro, shut up, bro. Like, no one cares. That's why I make these videos. That's why I don't tell anybody to subscribe, for anybody to comment, like, things like that. It doesn't matter, bro. If they like my content, if they like the kind of example I'm setting, if they like what they're watching and they want to become more like that, then by all means they'll watch. If they don't, and they choose to leave hate comments and be disrespectful or, not care, I'm indifferent. It just doesn't matter, right? So, again, I think if you really want people to follow in your footsteps and try to, and you might ask, well, why do you want to set a good example? It's like, the answer might seem very obvious, but it's to, add on to the greater good and the common good of humanity, and to tilt the world into a more positive direction. So I think you're only going to do that by setting an example, because if you keep talking about it, people actually want to go the other way and say, screw this. And especially if they don't see it in the example, especially if someone is 300 pounds talking about losing weight, like, do you really expect them to be heard? Like, I'm not trying to be offensive here, right? I'm just saying, and let's say you're skinny and talking about how to gain weight. It's like, why should anybody listen to you? You still haven't implemented those things to yourself. You haven't become that example, right? Think on that. Peace. Take it easy.